Sorry? No, we're fine. Okay? We're good. If I can remember So what's that? Yeah, just okay. And although don't say that part, just including. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay, if I can call the meeting to order. Thank you all very much for coming tonight to the special meeting of council on Thursday, April the 9th, 2015. Obviously, for the most part, you know what the topics are, so in that regard there, I'm assuming no statements need to be made with regards to decorum and those kind of aspects. Those have been detailed in the community lately. So first item of business is the adoption of the agenda itself.
I move that we adopt the agenda with the following changes, that item 3 be deleted from the agenda.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Hain. Discussion. Councillor Negrave.
Well, item 3 is a major point of the agenda. I'd like to hear why it may be suggested that it be deleted therefrom.
I would suggest deleting it because it can always be dealt with at a future date. I'd like to deal with item number 4, and I would like to proceed on that basis because I think there needs to be a bit of a cooling off period. There's a lot of items happening, both that are publicly out there and that are not publicly out there, and I think we need to deal with a bunch of those items prior to dealing with item 3.
Councillor Mulvey.
I'm reluctantly content with the cooling off period, but that's with a fairly enormous proviso that the issues that have been raised are going to be dealt with and dealt with sincerely. I'm skeptical that that's going to happen, and certainly the motion can be brought back in a couple of weeks' time or 3 weeks' time. This has been a tumultuous and difficult couple of weeks for the community, and certainly there needs to be some fairly significant changes in how we do business.
Excuse me, there's just a discussion with regards to items on the agenda, not a discussion of the item.
I'm getting there.
Please.
Certainly we need to do some fairly significant changes in how we conduct our meetings and how we treat each other, and although I'm in favor of taking the item off the agenda, it remains to be seen whether it'll come back on in a few weeks.
Councillor Hain.
Well, first off, I have to ask, why is this item on the agenda? Where did it come from? Why was it put here in the first place? And I almost feel like it's a bit of a threat coming from Councillor Milbank, that if things aren't adhered to in her way,
Okay.
it's coming
Excuse
back.
me. Again, just
Yeah?
whether it should be on the agenda itself.
But we either take it off and that's it. You know, it can't be or else it's coming back.
Okay, first off, just with respect to that, the appointment of the RDN director is at the pleasure of council, and therefore, in that respect, if the majority of council wishes it to be on the agenda, then it can be on an agenda at any time during the year. So it's not a negotiating point in that respect. Councillor Savage.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm comfortable. I would prefer to table the item. And the reason for my suggesting that was information's come to light to me today from a couple of sources that make me uncomfortable making a decision on the issue in any event. So yeah, I'll support the motion for
Councillor Coulson.
I'm going to vote against it. I gave up a Thursday evening that came here as well as about 60 people. If there's an issue, let's get it out there. If the motion doesn't stand today, it fails. And the issue is dealt with and away we go.
If I could just make one comment, regardless of whether or not the issue is dealt with one way or another tonight, it is still something that is at the will of council, so at a future meeting it could still be revisited. So in that regard there, although I have not been informed in any way, shape, or form what the issue itself is, it is something that could always be on the agenda, as could a number of other appointments. Just for information. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing nothing further.
the motion being.
The approval of the agenda with the striking of item number 3.
Sorry, there's other additions to the agenda to come. Are you just moving that one item, or are we adding more?
The motion itself was just to add, or just to delete item number 3.
Okay.
Councillor Coulson.
I make a suggestion for amendment that we add a public participation component at the end of the meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. With regards, so the original motion itself was to approve the agenda with the deletion of item number 3. So now there's a suggested amendment of adding a public participation, I would assume, after item council staff relations and adjournment, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And it's seconded by Councillor Hain. Discussion on the addition of public participation. Okay. Hearing none.
So we are, this is all in one now?
No.
So removal of...
No.
Okay, sorry.
We didn't vote on the first one.
Okay. Yep. We're amending the original motion. Okay. Any further discussion on the motion to amend Councillor Scott's motion with regards to adding public participation? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carried. Back to the original motion as amended. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in
No. Okay, sorry. Jump the gun.
sorry. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
I move that council engage a qualified consultant to facilitate the development of code of conduct for council and all staff, including QP 401 members.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I move that council engage a qualified consultant to facilitate the development of a code of conduct for council and all staff, including QP 401 members.
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Councillor Savage. Discussion. Councillor Hain.
So just to expand on this, so we're looking to bring someone in to deal with the harassment and bullying issues in decorum? Is that what we're saying?
And
Is that-
develop a code of conduct for all,
Okay,
everybody associated with the district.
so can
That
I,
was a question to Councillor Scott.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
just following up on that?
Okay.
I think that needs to be expanded. It's not just council, management, and QP. There's also residents, there's fire department members, there's the whole organization in the community at large that we need to look at with regards to the whole code of conduct. everybody has an issue or concerns that they've expressed. We've seen that in the emails. So I think it has to be an organization-wide issue that we address.
Okay. There was a motion, seconder. Are you amending it?
Yes, should I amend it to expand that?
Okay, to what?
To include the fire department members, the residents, and anyone else who feels they're affected.
Okay. There's a seconder for that? Okay, fails due to a lack of seconds. Might I make a suggestion, recognizing with regards to our policies themselves as they relate to bullying and harassment, there is mention with regards to the people that it applies to. So for example, in the case of policy 5005-2, it makes reference to council members, district officers, employees, and volunteers, which would then theoretically encompass the fire department, any volunteers with regards to committees, that sort of an aspect. To draw the resident side of things directly into it makes it very unwieldy, might be the best way to describe it. Councillor Olson?
Question through the staff. Is there a very rough estimate of what that would cost to prepare?
Not at this point.
Nothing even approximate. Okay. Another one? Through to Councillor Scott. So the vision of this, how would that be different than our mission statement and values that we just went through in the strategic plan? And I'll bring our attention to our council values: act in a professional manner at all times, having respect for the public, each other, the roles of council, staff, and the public, the decision-making process, to carry out adequate research and thoughtfully consider the issues before us while serving and representing all of our community. Don't know if we really need much more detail than that.
It expands upon that because the participants in that particular discussion were council. This expands to include all staff, so it's encompassing of the organization, not just council. Council developed that, not staff.
Okay.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you. Yeah, and I see the purpose of this to actually help us to achieve what we've written down, because it's okay having fancy words. We need to mean what we say. And if a workshop or facilitation will help us to achieve that, why would I object?
Councillor Coulson?
So would this be just like an intent motion, or are we actually going to do it without knowing the cost of what it would take to prepare it, if we vote on this today?
I would suggest that effectively recognizing some of the challenges, not only with council and staff to staff, volunteers, etc. I think it's incumbent upon us to find a way to do it regardless of that cost. Not that it would be a blank check per se,
That's my concern.
but it would be. My expectation is it would be a reasonable cost for an effective outcome. Okay, Councillor Milbank.
Codes of conduct are often useful, but not always. I'm going to vote for the motion. I know that Parksville, for example, has a code of conduct, and although they have a lot more experience in terms of running their government than we do, being only incorporated since 2003, I know it works very effectively there, and it's something that their councillors are quite proud of. It would be nice if we could eventually get there. I'm, however, skeptical that it's going to be effective. I'll certainly give it my best shot, but as Councillor Coulson mentioned, we already have a mission statement, which I referred to without any success in council debate before. We already have a procedural bylaw, which is routinely ignored. And we have other formal behavior organizing and rule setting mechanisms that are largely not enforced or sporadically enforced or altogether ignored. So, certainly, by all means, I'm ready, willing, and able to participate in the exercise to prepare a code of conduct. But the real question for me will be whether or not it is applied and whether or not it's something that people respect.
Councillor Hain.
A question and then a comment. First off, this is more than just a code of conduct, correct? We're looking at the whole harassment and bullying issue also, I thought.
Actually, I was going to ask for clarification of the motion itself, because when the motion was read, I heard the code of conduct part.
But it's,
Although in later comment, Councillor Scott did make mention of the broader issue.
And yes, it, sorry?
Sir, on the record, currently, staff have reported that council engage a qualified consultant to facilitate in the preparation of a code of conduct for council and all staff, including QB workers.
Yeah.
so can we amend that to include harassment and bullying in addition to code of conduct?
Okay. Just for clarification,
Or do you want a separate motion?
Well, no. Basically, the statement harassment and bullying is a very broad type thing. So when it comes to that, are you talking about consideration of existing challenges, or are you talking more generic in terms of future?
No, but what I'm saying is basically we're bringing in a consultant to ensure that our code of conduct is being followed. We already have all that
Development.
or developed.
Correct.
Well, we also have lots of other policies, such as a harassment and bullying policy, which was very clear on what the process should be in that, but yet that wasn't followed.
Okay.
So how do we ensure these policies are going to be followed? Because I'm also skeptical when we're seeing that they're not being followed.
Okay. If I might, Councillor Scott, make some suggestions with regards to the motion itself. The consultant to investigate and advise on council and staff to staff, relations amongst those parties mentioned here, the council members, district officers, employees, and volunteers.
Yes.
To include the development of
A
codes of conduct, not just for council, but for otherwise going forward.
Yep. Is that,
So does that
Yep.
cover your concerns with respect to the people?
Well, again, sorry, maybe I missed it, but the issue with the union isn't the code of conduct.
No, excuse me,
Yeah,
you're making assumptions.
yeah, but
Okay,
the
so-
bigger issue that's being discussed out there is the harassment and bullying
Excuse me.
policy.
But with respect, what it is an individual to come in to review that, as well as codes of conduct, existing, new, amendments, otherwise, so that effectively the organization can function at all levels.
So we're including harassment and bullying.
That
I would say that's
in
part of
terms
code of conduct.
Okay? Okay?
Okay?
Sorry, could you repeat that, what the motion is now?
Well, there actually wasn't a mover and seconder of that. That was a suggestion to Councillor Scott
To amend it.
to amend it to expand the people, so it's reflected as the people in the bullying and harassment policy. Councillor Negrave, I do have you on my list. And then with respect to what the individual is to do, it includes investigation and advise on current
Yes.
relations.
Current
relations. And because it includes those broad people, it would include relations amongst all parties.
Does that make sense?
Does that work for you too?
So we've got the motion on the floor, and it was for council and all staff, including QB workers. And so the motion is to amend the motion on the floor to expand, to add who?
So that we end up with council members, district officers, employees, and volunteers. And then also expand the purpose from just development of a code of conduct to include investigation and advise on the state of current relations amongst the parties.
And to include, to investigate and advise on current relations.
Correct. Can we have somebody actually make that amendment?
I think
Dave,
Dave
you
did.
make that
Yep.
amendment? Do we have a
So moved.
seconder? Thank you, Councillor Savage. Discussion on the amendment. Councillor Negrave.
Okay, so I'd like to know how the amendment in Councillor Scott's motion relates to agenda item 4.
Councillor Scott, did you want
I think it is, I guess the concern I had with item number 4 was it was investigate. It was more, I'm looking at a lot broader context, and I guess I struggle a little bit with the word investigate. I'm trying to soften it, as be a good expression. I'm trying to make it more inclusive of coming up with solutions, to review where the current situation is, and to develop a path forward. So that is where the code of conduct side of it comes from, that I would assume we have everybody sign off on, is what I would like to see. It's a public document, and then the public can hold us accountable for our actions.
So if I understand this correctly, then what you're doing is proposing a code of conduct that's forward-looking.
I would expect through this process there is obviously some issues, staff to staff, staff to council, and whatever other combinations in between. As part of that, I say that, by using the word facilitate, that all of those different dynamics are going to be explored, fettered out as part of the process, and then a code of conduct developed as a result of that, hopefully everybody can have input into and sign off on.
Councillor Molman.
Personally, I'd like to see both. I'd like to see the motion that Councillor Scott has proposed, and in addition, the motion that Councillor Negrave and I have proposed, that Council direct staff to engage a qualified consultant to investigate and advise on Council staff relations as referenced in the March 26, 2015 memorandum. The reason for that is because I think I want to make sure that the issues that were raised don't get swept under the table in everybody's sort of desire to get into the warm and fluffy stuff and put this sort of difficult patch behind us. I want to make sure that the issues that gave rise to that specific memorandum are still specifically addressed. So I think we need both.
Councillor Coulson.
A couple things. So, Councillor Scott's question, or motion. So how do we deal with the current dynamic that's out there? Is that going to keep unfolding the way it has while we get a code of conduct established and wait for that?
I would, if I may.
Oh, sorry.
I would anticipate that, as I say, I'm trying to move things forward, and trying to come up with solutions. Maybe this isn't the perfect thing, but I think it's something to move forward on, and I would hopefully we could move as rapidly as we can find somebody and find the time to get somebody involved. So I don't know. We don't have that information yet, so I can't give a specific timeline, but I would like to see ASAP to get this happening and to get any issues sorted out.
Okay. Second piece I had to that, pertaining to the second motion suggested. So right now we basically have those who are accusing, or there's the accused and the accusers. That die has been cast. And so if we vote on motion 2 tonight, we're basically asking the people who are accusing others of bullying of going and finding someone to investigate that.
Okay, keep in mind that motion has not been made.
No.
Okay, so to speak to that motion is incorrect.
So that does not seem quite right to me. We have policies, very clear policies on how that issue should have been addressed.
Okay.
And we failed miserably on that.
Speak to the motion of Councillor Scott.
Okay,
I
so
understand
okay,
what you're saying, but okay. I believe Councillor Negrave.
Thank you. Yeah, I think if we're going to do this, we need to have both motions, both concepts. I'm fine with developing a code of conduct going forward. As been pointed out a number of times, we do have some, harassment and bullying procedure policies. We've got the mission statement. We've got all sorts of things calling for decent behavior. The point is they haven't been followed and they haven't been enforced. We can have a code of conduct if we not, and that's great. If we want to restate things yet again, that's great. But unless it's enforced, it's not worth the paper it's written on or the electronic media or whatever. Why we need something more, and we'll speak to that more at the next motion, is there has been a failure of the existing policy so far. So we can go ahead and make with the motion. In fact, I will support it, but we need to be resolved that there will be teeth behind it, and those that transgress will be brought to book.
Councillor.
I will agree that we did jump over the harassment and bullying policy, which I don't know why that occurred. I think that needs to be the very first step. The very first procedure in that policy is go to those that feel they're being harassed and ask for the specifics. How do you take action and know what to do if you don't even know what the allegations are? Right now, they're ghosts. They're just, something's been said out there that nobody really knows. It hasn't been defined. But the point is we're looking to bring in an investigator when we don't even know what we're investigating. Shouldn't we follow the policy first?
Okay. In terms of it, speak to the motion. We're all getting past the motion itself and getting into the details of incidents and that. And I know there's strong feelings with respect to it, but the motion itself was related to engaging a consultant, not debating the issue at this point. Councillor Savage.
Yeah, I support the motion with the amendment. You know, I think the bottom line...
Which amendment? Do you mean the expansion of the words?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
you know, the bottom line here is we have to recognize that we have a problem as a council. We have a problem with the community. We have a credibility problem. We have to do something about it. We should be doing better than this. We owe it to ourselves, to our mental health, we owe it to our staff, and we owe it to the community. For goodness sake, let's get on and get something done.
I agree. We are here.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Is everybody aware what the motion is?
Repeat it.
Read it again.
Trudy, please.
So the motion that was, the main motion that was on the floor, do you want that first or just
The main motion as amended.
Okay, the motion as amended would be...
Oh, you probably got to tie two things together, don't you?
Yeah, I have to type it. Just hum for a minute.
Pick your song.
Don't you remember it, Dave?
No, it would first be on the amendment. But what would result from the amendment is the main motion would then read that council engage a qualified consultant to investigate and advise on current relations, including facilitating in the preparation of a code of conduct for council members, district officers, employees, and volunteers.
Could you read it again, please?
The council engage a qualified consultant to investigate and advise on current relations, including facilitating in the preparation of a code of conduct for council members, district officers, employees, and volunteers.
So that encompasses the other issue.
Okay. Trudy, we voted on the amendment.
You haven't voted on the amendment.
Thank you. Okay, so the amendment itself, which was the addition of the people and the additional wording. Any further discussion on that amendment?
Oh, that's already been moved.
It's been moved and seconded, I believe. All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Motion carried. The original motion as amended. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Anything further on council and staff relations and decorum?
Are we on agenda item 4?
Yes, we were. Yes, we are. I guess.
Okay, so I move that council direct staff to engage a qualified consultant to investigate and advise on council staff relations as referenced in the March 26, 2015 memorandum from staff and any other council staff issues that may be identified.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilor Milbank. Discussion on that motion. Councilor
Levi, mover. Thank you. Clearly there's a problem. We have guidelines about how to behave and all sorts of mission statements, etc., and clearly they haven't been followed, despite it being fairly simple stuff, be nice to people and respect them. It's not been followed. There's been, numerous examples, and I won't go through a litany of them. It's just that they're so obvious it's not worth commenting on. We really need to find out what happened, why our established guidelines were not followed, and we need to be very serious about this. Is very similar to what I witnessed when I was back on council in 2009.
Yes.
Same concerns about staff being mistreated. It's resurfaced again. And I can't emphasize strongly enough that we need to hire someone qualified, someone external, someone independent, figure out what the problem is, have it articulated, have it as public as possible. But that's another point. And vote on it to fix things. This can't be allowed to continue.
Any additional discussion? Councillor Milbank.
I pulled out the closing comments I made at the end of last term, so this is in the November 24th, 2014 regular council minutes. And what it says is, this is in council reports and everybody's sort of saying their goodbyes and their hope for the future. It says, Councillor Milbank commented on the 2014 election results, welcomed the new and returning council members. And then the next sentence is the one that's really stuck in my head. Noting she will be observing how people are treated, including staff and others. So, I mean, this is something that, it was something that a lot of us could see coming. I'm a little bit depressed at the fact that we're taking the step to engage yet another consultant in order to help us have the conversations that we seem unable to have. We've already hired a facilitator to discuss water. It seems we've just hired a facilitator consultant to come up with a code of conduct, and now, again, we're looking at hiring this facilitator to investigate and advise on council staff relations. And, this is not good. So I seconded the motion because there's a problem that was raised, some issues that were raised, and I think, in the best interest of the district, those need to be fleshed out. Hopefully solutions can be found so that we can address that again instead of sweeping it under the rug.
Councillor Hain.
Well, I certainly do agree that respect has got to be the order of the day. Everyone has to respect everyone's opinion, to question, to inquire, to ensure there's accountability. There's always this fine line between what people think is not respect versus asking a question. The greatest thing that's happened in this term that I like is the meetings are now being video recorded. Members of the community can go and see exactly what the code of conduct has been. There's no need to exaggerate it. More importantly, it's the code of conduct between councillors. Over the last term, there were councillors calling other councillors' names in a public meeting. That stuff had to stop. It has to stop. The code of conduct in this organization has deteriorated, and it's not appropriate. I do encourage people, go look at the video, and you can make your own conclusions on how people have been treated. And like I say, it's not just one way. It's this whole organization, and everyone needs to be involved, and everybody needs to hear by the rules.
Councillor Scott.
I'll support the motion. I don't have any concerns about it. I think it's more narrow in scope than the original motion, and maybe that's a good thing. It deals in a lot smaller group, and hopefully that could additionally help to move us forward. And that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to move forward and to try to develop something that we can actually get on with the business of the district.
Councillor Colson.
So I was starting on this thread earlier and was speaking to the wrong motion, but how do we hire an unbiased facilitator? The people who are doing the hiring, establishing the terms of reference, they're the ones that have the voting concerns. And I don't mean that to say that I don't believe it's not a concern. It absolutely needs to be addressed. But per our policies, step one of our policy, confidentiality and anonymity. Well, that horse left the gate long ago. And then step 3, we finally get to where details are being involved and people are being appointed to help through the process, and you appoint an advisor. And that can be a member of staff, or supervisor, any member of the district's management team, or another representative agreed upon. So I think it's a poor use of the public's money, residents' money, to hire a facilitator to do this. We've got the process here. It should be followed. And that is where the problem is.
Councillor Scott.
To address Councillor Coulson's question, and I think it's a fair question, we can hire a third party, that somebody possibly who's done work for the district before as a consultant, and there's numerous ones I could list off. We can engage them to choose somebody to do it, to come in and act as the facilitator. So it's a third party that is choosing it, so it's independent. It's not staff doing it, it's not council doing it. It's a third party that is going out and engaging somebody, so there's complete independence in that regard. And I think you have a valid point. And in that way, nobody can say that, well, a certain individual was chosen because of whatever reasons. And I think it would be a fair process. Obviously, you'd have to put maybe a few bookends around it just so the person understood what they're trying to do. But I don't think that's that difficult.
May I ask, when do we actually get to discussing the core issues? The accusations of bullying. Yes, they were made. We got to address them. When do we get the details so we can discuss about it? Because I would really like to know that. Because right now I'm one of those people being accused of bullying. That's fine. If I have, great. Let's talk about it. But as I speculate as to what the concern is, I'm very concerned. If I question staff on something, on the quality of information received, or something that might have been missing, that's not bullying by WCB standards. That's me doing my job as a counselor and as an employer. And we need to talk about that too, in my opinion.
Councillor Neger.
Thank you. Okay, a few things. First off, in terms of hiring a consultant, a human resources consultant or something similar, that shouldn't be a big problem. There's lots of firms that deal with this sort of thing out there. And staff who are so thoroughgoingly professional and well-serving to the community, I have no doubt whatsoever that they will help us to choose the appropriate talent to help solve this particular issue. Going back to the policy itself, as it was written, and I went through it very carefully, it doesn't really seem to fit the concern as it's arrived, i.e. all of senior management sending a communication to all of council. I think senior staff probably did that out of a courtesy and out of respect. They probably could have named specific individuals, but they chose to name council as a whole, and I think that was a nice touch rather than choosing to identify several people, perhaps. So, these are minor issues in light of the gravity of the particular situation. I'm hoping council will choose to support this, and I'm hoping they'll choose to listen closely to what is said. I realize this is going to cost the district money. Ignoring the situation has the potential to cost the district even more financially, in addition to the suffering that people are clearly experiencing.
Yeah. Further discussion?
Question?
No.
No?
No.
Oh.
No. As I do, I wait to the end to comment with respect to it. First of all, and I'm authorized to read this by President Blaine Dury, QP 401. District of Landsville QP 401 members respectfully request the opportunity to submit any concerns regarding the treatment of District of Landsville QP 401 members by senior management staff as it relates to bullying and harassment policy. The motion as presented is specific to management council relations. It makes reference to the March 26, 2015 memorandum, which was only from management staff. The CUPE members themselves wish to be involved in it and raise the concerns that they have as well. So from that consideration, I won't support the motion on that aspect. The other consideration is the original motion itself, as broad as it was, brought everybody into the fold. It allowed everybody to raise the concerns that they have. It didn't exclude one group over another. It didn't play one group against another. And so in that respect there, it covered what people are looking to do. The fact that it's not specific to the March 26, 2015 memorandum doesn't mean that the March 26, 2015 memorandum isn't considered. It doesn't mean it's swept under the rug. It's part of it. But as I mentioned, CUPE members wish to be part of it as well. They have concerns. There's the aspect of trying to imply that it didn't exist, or it existed with the council up to 2011 and it's existed with this council. Take a look at the staff turnover. Now, I'm not going to speculate directly as to reasons, but when it comes to planners that have been here and left, corporate administrators that have been here and left, long-term administrators that have been here and left, there's a challenge there. Individuals have stated conclusions that are already reached. So either they're aware of information that the rest of council isn't, which is basically violation is probably the wrong word, but it's basically the idea is that all people get the same information. People have made statements out in the public that have drawn conclusions. People, councillors, 4 councillors on a memo that goes out to the public. A majority of council is 4. So that's effectively saying that 4 individuals can't influence or affect what's going on here, so they need to go out to the public. It makes no sense to me. If it was 3 people that went out to the public, I get it. The other part is there's some items within that statement that are conveniently missing, such as the request to staff for additional information, for clarification, so we could look at this thing with information. Now, as I mentioned, possibly the other members of council had information that we didn't. And in terms of it, there was a suggestion by one individual that it was like the bullies requesting money or information from the bully. The memo itself said, prepare a letter to council. Not myself. All of council was notified that I was seeking additional information for council. There was no expression of concern with respect to that until after the fact. There's been comments with regards to procedure bylaw violations. There's the process of point of order. If somebody's concerned about a process, follow the rules. Same thing with regards to this policy. There is ways to go about complaining about bullying and harassment. That was passed by council last year. Follow it. It's that simple. And those issues will be dealt with. I'm not saying we all have to agree, but there is a process in that respect. So, in terms of it, we're adding to things here because of specific issues. Councillor Scott's motion, as amended, encompassed everybody. It's supposed to be a team. It's not 3 silos, 4 silos. Council, senior management, and CUPE staff. We're a small group. The only way for it to work is for us to work together, take all the titles off, and basically go forward in that respect. And so to segment off groups doesn't work. So, in terms of it, like I said, I'm going to vote against this motion because the original motion in my mind covers it. It's all-inclusive. It doesn't follow any specific cases, but it makes it, for example, we have the CUPE staff downstairs. We have the CUPE staff outside. They're concerned too. Yet this excludes them or treats somebody special. No, let's leave it as the original motion. It does what we need it to do. We don't end up hiring 2 consultants if that's what the concern is. It just works on getting the job done for everybody. That's my rant. Councillor Negre.
Okay, I have to respond to some of the things you said.
By all means.
First of all, you referenced making an information request to senior management. about the specifics of what they referenced in in their memo. And I replied to you saying before you, when you advised that was your intention, that sort of initiative should come from council. It should not come from you as an individual. It's a significant matter. The mayor is not supposed to be running his own show, but is supposed to be acting on behalf of council. Secondly, in reference to the note from the QP people, I'll just note that, yes, you did send that to us earlier, but you advised at that point it was confidential. That information in the QP piece could easily have been rolled into one of these other motions, except that we were informed by you to keep it confidential. Now you seem to bring it out to your advantage as not confidential, so not very consistent. Regarding the four of us that put our signature to that memo or that flyer that said we don't agree with the unconscionable behavior that's been happening in the treatment of some people, we don't control the meeting. We don't control the meeting. None of us are the chair. It's incumbent on the chair to control comments and tone.
Anything further?
That's it for the moment.
Okay, Councillor Scott.
I think this has gone far enough, quite frankly. I think this is stuff that needs to be discussed with the consultant. This is going nowhere. It's going in circles, and will continue to go in circles, and will continue on a downward spiral if we let it do it. I'm not willing to do that. I think we need to finish the meeting. We need to get a consultant in sooner rather than later, and this is the type of stuff that needs to be dealt with a facilitator. Somebody who's independent. We have the mayor chairing it right now. He obviously has some strong comments and feelings. So in my mind, it doesn't work totally, because he should be able to freely participate, and also none of us should be under the restriction of the chair dealing with stuff. So I would suggest strongly to all of council that we move on, that we deal with it through the facilitation process, and we not try to self-facilitate right now, because we're going to go nowhere.
Councillor Hain.
And I agree with that, which is, I think, why we need to have one facilitator deal with the whole issue. The union people have also raised numerous concerns. We can't split this off and have an us and them mentality and approach to this. It's got to be everybody under one umbrella, and I don't understand why we're trying to split it up now.
I can answer that, yeah, because we were told to keep the QP memo confidential. That's why it got split out. Had it not all of a sudden decided to be unconfidential now, it had come out earlier in the week. It could easily have been included. The advantage of this, the motion that we're voting on right now, is it does indeed deal with some of the specifics. So if we're going to find out why the policies that have been in place in terms of appropriate treatment have not been followed, then we do have to go to specifics. The other motion, the other idea is fine, but we need to find out what happened and why if we're going to fix it.
A suggestion to that may resolve this issue. Can I suggest that the motion as put forward, that the items that are suggested to be dealt with that motion be included in the items under the first motion? Would that be satisfactory to everybody?
In my mind, it was implied.
Yeah.
Run that by me again, please.
The items that are in the motion that are on the table right now, that the items that are within that motion be included specifically within the original motion that we voted on.
Yeah. No, I don't agree with that.
Councillor Melvin.
I agree. This is what's brought us here. This is the issue that's brought this meeting about and has brought this large crowd of people. This is the issue that I'm particularly concerned about. This is the issue that I expected was probably coming down the pipe after seeing the election results. So I also think that the motion should stand alone, and it's on the floor and it's been made.
Councillor Savage.
Yeah, I can't see any reason why it can stand alone. Can't see how it detracts from what we're trying to achieve.
Any further discussion on the motion?
Can you repeat the motion, please?
Trudy?
The council directs staff to engage a qualified consultant to investigate and advise on council staff relations as referenced in the March 26, 2015 memorandum from staff, and any other council staff issues that may be identified. It's moved by Councillor Negrave, seconded by Councillor Milbank.
Councillor Scott?
I think that may encompass Mayor Hames' concern about the QP 401 issues, because it says any other council staff issues that may be identified. That's been identified.
Yeah, my challenge with that is it's council dash staff, making a connection between council and staff. The concerns raised by QP are not related to council directly. That's my challenge.
Get a recorded vote, please.
Yeah, and with regards to the reading of that paragraph, QP 401 has been monitoring what's been going on for the last few days, and subsequent to me sending the original concern to council, I was given permission to read that paragraph. Councillor Scott.
And I'm just exploring here, so if people will bear with me. I'm trying to come up with solutions. Would Councillor Negrave, on his motion, object to, or not object to, a potential change of council staff and staff issues? If that makes any sense.
Is that 3 motions in a row, or did you?
So you're suggesting striking council staff or adding to it?
Potentially adding to it, advise on council staff relations and staff relations.
Issues?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with that.
I will move to amend the motion on the floor to include the staff. I don't know if we're replicating the same thing
sounds
here,
like it.
but
Well,
I'm trying to come to a solution.
just before, is your expectation a different consultant than the first one?
Assuming it's Councillor Negrave's motion, I'm assuming that's what he's looking at.
Yeah, it's mission specific, and they're 2 different missions.
Okay. Okay, go ahead and make the amendment.
Yeah. I make the amendment. I don't know if anybody wants to second it.
I'll second it with an amendment. We got about 45
How about if before I
Can I
accept
suggest
Councillor Scott's
that
amendment?
instead of the term staff, so we've got council staff, and then I think I heard you say staff.
Yes.
Can I suggest that you say council staff and management staff?
Okay. No problem with that.
So, repeat that again?
Yeah.
Council staff and, well, it should be council to management and management to staff.
Yeah, that's what I was making sure that we had that right
Okay.
there, because it looked like we're in a loop.
Yeah. And
Okay. Okay, so Councillor Scott, now you want to make your amendment?
I make the amendment that it be changed to council management and management staff relations.
I'll second that.
Second by Councillor Savage. Discussion. Councillor Hain?
So again, we're leaving out another group. We're leaving out the volunteers, the fire department. They also have past concerns that they've raised. If we're going to look at an investigation into the past,
Councillor Hain, I can
Yeah.
appreciate what you're saying. I think with regards to the issues for which we have correspondence for are encompassed within that motion. And certainly if there's kind of longer-term concerns with regards to the fire department, it can be covered under the first one.
Actually, I'd just like to make one amendment, just to modify the motion slightly. And can I borrow your piece of paper here for a second? And I think
We've
this...
still got an amendment.
But the amendment I just wanted to modify slightly, because we refer specifically to the reference in the March 26, 2015 memorandum from staff, and including the April 7th memo from QP 401.
Just in terms of the staff, the fire department are departments of the district and the staff.
Okay.
Fair.
As long as they're included.
Just in a second there, Councillor Milbank, just procedurally here, we've got a suggestion of adding the date into the motion to reflect the concerns of the QP side of things.
Yeah, because we had the one date and the other's not.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate exactly why you've done it. And let's see, we're on amendment. We can amend twice, correct?
Yes. I understood you were amending the same amendment.
Yes, it was the same
We're
amendment.
still formulating.
Still formulating.
Okay, we're still formulating? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So moved by Councillor Scott, seconded by Councillor Savage, I believe?
Yes. You
With
okay with that?
respect to it, just the inclusion of the date in
So
there.
that the council amends the motion on the floor to strike and any other council staff and replace with, and the April 7th, 2015 memo from QB 401 and any other council management, council-management, and management-staff.
Okay.
Yes.
So discussion with regards to the amendment. Councillor Milbank.
I'm not going to support that amendment because we received this email from the mayor on April 7th. Council members attached, please find correspondence that I received this afternoon from District of Lansdale QP 401 President Blaine Gurry. The request of QP staff is this letter be confidential at this time, and I am only authorized to distribute it to council members at this time. Given that request for confidentiality, which I honored, I took a look at the message a little closer in the letter. The letter actually wasn't from Mr. Gurry to Mayor Haim. The letter was to Mr. Gurry. There's no email attached to it from Mr. Gurry to Mayor Haim. I wasn't in a position to talk to anybody because I thought it prudent to respect that confidentiality. I tried to contact Mr. Gurry in order to discuss this with him and haven't been able to. And at the moment, the only information that I have on this issue is what I've received from the mayor because of this supposed but now non-existent cover of confidentiality, and I don't feel comfortable voting for it, given that this has not been something that I've been able to do my own research on it, and the circumstances that I got the letter in raised some questions for me.
Any further discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Motion carried. Back to the original motion as amended. Any further discussion?
Can we hear that again, please?
It's not
Tax and
merged
treaty,
yet.
yeah.
I haven't merged it. Okay. So the council directs staff to engage a qualified consultant to investigate and advise on council management and management staff relations as referenced in the March 26, 2015 memorandum and the April 7, 2015 memo from QB 401 and any other council management and management staff issues that may be identified.
Hate to draw this out further. Does staff have any recommendations on this motion that they'd like to contribute? I'll ask that question through you to staff.
That's really
The staff have taken the position that this issue is for discussion in a closed meeting. We have conducted ourselves in a confidential manner, and we should continue to do that.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? I believe a recorded vote was asked for. Okay. All those in favor of the motion as amended? Councillor Savage, Councillor Hain, Councillor Scott, Mayor Hain, in favor. Councillor Milbank, Councillor Negre, opposed. Councillor Coulson, motion carried. Any further motions? Hearing none, I guess that gets us to public participation time. Recognizing the discussions and as painful as they may be, we do want to move forward, so hopefully we can be constructive with respect to this. Public participation. Yes, sir. Sorry. Make sure you say name and address for the minute taker, please.
Jerry O'Rourke, Upper Lansford. When you want the public here, it'd be nice if instead of abbreviating things, you might say what the amendment actually, or what you're talking about actually is, instead of number 4. So we know exactly what everybody's talking about. So state what it is first, and then abbreviate it. And you've got everybody here, and it's about one subject. And I don't know if you guys need to go on a whitewater rafting trip, but if you need a consultant to tell you what's going wrong, I kind of agree that maybe we shouldn't be paying for that, or maybe that's the answer. I don't know what the answer is, but the voters could possibly sort it out. And I have to agree with the staff, when they make the statement that we're doing this confidentially. A lot of people are envious of the people who live in Lansville, but I don't think we should air our laundry in public.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mary Allard, and I'm in Upper Lansville as well, and I'd like to applaud our staff for writing that memo and bringing it to everybody's attention.
Yes.
Really appreciate their thoughts, and a lot of us very, very concerned about this. In fact, that was my solution, was to hire an HR person to sort out this problem, because obviously there is. I don't feel I can trust the existing councillors to solve this on their own. I am very pleased that we do have a hired HR person to sort this out.
Yes, Marjorie.
Marjorie Stewart, Lansville Road. I came because in all my years of elected and appointed and community service, I have never seen all members of senior staff make a public complaint, and I regard that as a public complaint about their treatment by the people that we elected to look after our business. And I'm left with the feeling that the move to deal with that issue, which is extraordinarily serious, is taken very seriously in any board that I've ever dealt with, health boards, school boards. If there is a rift between one member of senior staff and council, and to think that it has come to this pass within 6 months is not good. So the conclusion is that the move to deal with this specific issue has been diluted, and I'm not sure where that will go. So you'd better deal with it.
Lucy Dumichel, 6784 Harwood. I'm really confused. People seem to be assuming, or people know facts that I have not seen yet. I have heard allegations, I have heard innuendos, I have not seen any facts. I don't think council has seen any facts from what the emails have said, and I don't understand why people in the council or in the residents are assuming that there is factual validity to the complaints. That's all.
Mr. Pierce.
Point well made. I agree. It's
name and address.
Sorry, Mike Pierce, Leyland Road. Disappointing that it had to come out in that letter. Tumultuous couple of weeks. That's tumultuous couple of days, maybe. It's very disappointing to me that we're entertaining a study where every time government gets together, we get a study. Well, you guys got a thing in place. Let's use it. WorkSafe, that policy is in place. I'm sure you can get one of their representatives here for free. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Brenda Savage, Harwood Drive. I'm listening to everybody tonight, and I'm realizing I have a background in staff relations and mediation, and I'm realizing that there is a discrepancy between how people here and wherever interpret abuse and harassment. We all have different ideas of what we are doing, whether we are abusing or harassing somebody, and some of us walk a fine line and some of us back right off from that line. And I think one of the issues here is that you need, definitely need some facilitation to come in and say what is abuse, what is harassment, what is inappropriate. Because I come to many of the council meetings, and one in particular I saw was, I would call it harassment and demeaning. I saw something, I was appalled and upset, and I think that maybe the way that occurred, people didn't quite understand what they were doing. And I think that we need to come together and have an organizational standard that gives us some guidance on how to behave in certain circumstances. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm James Bash, and I'm on Upper Landscale. And the last election, the council was all voted in that we were going to go from 6 councillors to 4. So now we see what 4 councillors can do. Where will we ever have another opinion if it's all going to be opinionated by 4 people? Well, this will never happen again.
Further public participation. Yes.
Linda Williams, I'm just down on Landcrest Terrace. I've been a teacher for close to 30 years now, and bullying is something that I see every day in my class. And one of the things that the bully says, the first thing they say is, what did I do? It wasn't me. What did I do? I need specifics. And to me, and it's nothing against anyone here, but to me, often we need to take a step back, like you were saying, and to just have a neutral person analyze what the deal is. Sometimes it's not even what you said, it's how you said it. It's your body language, it's the tone of voice. So I think having a neutral party come in and just look at the situation would be then very beneficial.
Yes.
Sarah Marshall, Lanceville Road. I'm new to Lanceville, love the community. It's one of the best kept secrets, I think, on Vancouver Island. And I can't imagine that being a councillor or a staff member here is a grateful position or an easy position, but I would have to say, having only been to 5 meetings, I think the councillors, it is so clear in your nonverbals and some of the ways that you interact with each other. There's a dichotomy on the council itself, and I don't know how you can hold the staff accountable without holding yourselves accountable. And I think that you all need to take a step back and a step in and look at how you interact with each other, because it's a bit shocking, quite frankly, having been involved in a lot of governance. And I'm sure you're all better individuals than some of the perceptions you left the community.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Further participation. A hand out the doorway there.
Glenn Dickinson, Upper Lansville. I'd just like to say, if a notice like this goes out, there's a lot of people sitting back here that are having a hard time listening to what's going on. In your extravagant budget, you might want to plan for some audio-visual equipment, or a PA system, or just a simple set of speakers. But furthermore, if you're going to have a venue that's this important, pick another place to have the venue.
Yes.
Another handout in the hallway.
My name is Lance Gesselbrock. I live on Alls Road. I read that memo, and I've been a civil engineer for over 30 years working with municipal governments. I was absolutely shocked that that would be written, and from what I can see, led by the CAO. In the real world, that person would be fired tomorrow, would be given some payment in lieu of notice. That's the way it's handled in the real world. I would
hang on,
call staff and say, you want to
Lance,
work here?
Lance,
This is a great community.
Lance, not individuals.
All right. This is a great community. You need to pull staff. Do you want to work here? If not, then we'll find a way to get you exited out the door. You can't have memos written like that and presented. Your CAO has to be able to have a relationship with council. My other point is that the 4 council members that then made that public, you didn't exercise your fiduciary duty to us taxpayers in this city.
Okay.
You
Lance?
put us tremendously at risk.
Lance. Okay. Recognizing the challenges.
Yeah.
We want to try and keep individuals out of it.
No more individuals, but
okay.
that action puts us at risk.
Lance, by referring to a specific action, and I hear what you're saying, but by referring to a specific action, it's calling out individuals again. Okay.
It happened. It happened. It's already out there. Their names are on that memo.
Okay.
I mean,
and in terms of that, we're hoping to move forward.
Hockey, you've got to clean up before you're moving anywhere.
Okay.
So,
fair
I want
enough.
to put it forward that we've been put at risk. As a taxpayer in this community,
Lance.
we're at risk
Excuse me, Lance.
of large
Lance,
legal action.
please stop.
So, that's it.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, Tom.
That's it. Okay, I'll just share something with you about the clapping. Down in Victoria, they did e-town hall meeting for the first time about a couple of weeks ago, and the mayor of Victoria specifically said, we don't want to hear any booing or clapping, we're trying to have this e-town hall meeting. And somebody said something, so people started to clap. Well, one of the people in the audience clapping was the mayor of Nanaimo, and she called him out right there in the meeting. She said, the only person that can't seem to follow direction is the mayor of Nanaimo. Here, I don't think we've ever stopped clapping in terms of we'll kind of move forward. Additional public participation. Yes.
Carol Halliwell, Lansdale. What upsets me about this is all these consultants we have down here. We have high-paid help, professional staff. You're 10 adults, you're 12 adults, and I think it's really unfortunate that you couldn't have solved this. You know, talk to each other or whatever. Like kids in a playground do it. And now we have, as Jennifer says, or Councillor Milbank says, we have a consultant paid for. We've had a consultant for the downtown core. We're having a consultant to help hire a fire chief. All this costs money, and we're trying to keep our tax bills down. And all this is costing money.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Joan Colson, Glasgow, BC. I'm very disgusted with the whole thing. We shouldn't be going through or have to go through all this. We are adults. We should try to get along and respect one another. And if we figure we've done something wrong, apologize for what we've done and move on and not act like children.
Thank you. Al, you had your hand up?
Al Michelle, Upper Lanceville. One question for you and then one comment for your reflection. The question is, while all of this and churn is going on, who's attending to the people's business? The comment I have for you is this. There's an old French idiomatic expression which says, and I'm trying to do it justice, which says, qui s'accuse, s'accuse. To translate means, he or those who make excuses accuse themselves. I leave it with you.
Any further? Yes, Mr. Hallam.
John Halliwell, Lancaster area. Thank you for those that replied to my email that I sent to all council late last night. I hope that you will read it again and try and sort things out in an expeditious manner and get on with business of this community, because what I've heard tonight doesn't make me feel confident that things are going to get better sooner than later. And you've got a lot of work to do, and you've got to come together now. Not a month from now, not 6 months from now. You can't wait. You're all grown-ups, you've got to sort it out together. Have to.
Okay. Any additional public participation? Another handout in the hallway.
Road. 3 quick points. I'm also a teacher, and some things have been made in reference to playgrounds and students and kids. First of all, we wouldn't tolerate the kind of behavior that I've witnessed in this building, in this room, from our kids at all.
Yeah.
That's the first point. The second point is, you said that kids work it out on the playground. They're facilitated by an adult to do that. So they don't get it out by themselves. Usually winds up with somebody with a bloody nose or somebody who's been beaten down in some way, whether it be emotionally or physically. So to suggest that when a situation gets to the point it is in this venue, we can all work it out because we're adults, I don't believe that is possible at this time.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
We need facilitation to do that.
Yep.
Whether it be someone that we can have come for free or we have to pay, whatever it is, it needs facilitation.
Yep.
And thirdly, I've personally witnessed very poor behavior in this council chamber by some members of council, to the point where I am shaking because it is so stressful and so unhealthy. And so to be in that room week after week, dealing with that level of stress and anxiety as a member of council or a paid staff member, it doesn't matter. It is unhealthy, and this needs to be a healthy workplace.
Any further public participation?
John Parker, Harwood Drive. I have a question. Has this matter been previously been dealt with in camera? If not, why not? This is one of the 3 L's, legal, labor, and land. And I gotta admit, I'm really kind of surprised to find my box a labor matter that I'm sure you, staff, and everyone else finds incredibly uncomfortable to find in their mailbox.
Yeah.
Expecting an answer to the question?
Yeah, I'm looking for an answer.
Can't divulge what we discussed in camera.
Yeah.
So is there no one willing to acknowledge that this has been, not saying the contents, but has this been dealt with in camera or not?
No.
Meeting schedule will give you your answer.
Okay. Councillor Negrave, just keeping in mind
Yeah, I'm not going to speak to anything that specifically was or was not in camera. Speaking to them, because it's been referenced a number of times tonight, the memo that we received did not arrive in any sort of confidential format. It arrived in a regular council package. The brown ones, no yellow, nothing. We were later advised that it was indeed not confidential, and whatever. So it's specifically identified as not being confidential. Why we had to burden the public and send it out to them, we wouldn't be sitting here discussing it right now if it didn't.
That's right.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
In other words,
Councillor Hain?
Well, I think the clarification, just for point of order, Councillor Negrave asked for the item to be on the April 27th meeting, which is what we all agreed to. And then all of a sudden it showed up in the mail.
There was an agreement, there was a suggestion
Yes.
in terms of it.
Yes.
And while we're clarifying items, Councillor Negrave, you made reference to an order with respect to my memo to staff. In fact, your comment with respect to that it should be handled in a meeting and that it should be handled by all of council came after that.
I believe I sent one on the Monday night, on the Sunday night, saying that it was not something to be handled alone.
Well, we'll go through the emails. Actually, Councillor Colson, does it relate to this?
It does. So there's
Council participation. Public participation.
Yeah,
We can debate this later.
Good question, though. The public was burdened with the memo per Councillor Negrave's comments. May I ask when the public will get burdened with the resignation letter so they can see all the information?
Let's leave that for another day. Mr. Ahokas.
John Ahokas, Stone Road, Upper Lunsville. I like your mission statement you read off at the beginning of the meeting. I think that's a good sign there. That's the way to start. I don't believe you need another consultant. You can have 10 consultants and you guys will never get along. You just won't. Yeah. But I think you can learn to live with each other's opinions. And if you've offended someone on staff, then you have to apologize, whether personally, but you don't get that far. You have to nip it in the bud before it happens. But getting back to it, you know, you guys talk back and forth here, and a couple of comments I've made just recently. I mean, don't get personal on this. Stick to what you're dealing with here. You have to get along. I mean, you're not gonna get somebody to change your mind or her mind or whatever it is. That's accepted. You know, so you have to respect the other person's thoughts and what they say, but no personal attacks at all. And I've seen some of that already, and it's pretty bad. It really is.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you. Can you clarify the resignation comment?
No.
Speaking, sorry.
We will leave that, please. Oh,
we're going to leave that?
Sorry. Yes.
We're going to leave that. Well,
for now.
I'll leave it with a comment that, you know, if we've elected a mayor,
yes,
that's what the people want. And it's got to be harder than that to get them out of here.
Thank you. Actually, I might have missed Mr. Griffey previously. Did you have your hand up?
I am.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Michael Haggard on Silver. I too would like to know what this comment is about resignation. If it's put forth, then you're putting it to us. What was that in reference to?
I'm not sure what the interpretation was, but and I'll just kind of comment because there's other aspects. I don't believe the comment was in relation to anything like Councillor Coulson resigning or anything like that. If that's the interpretation.
No,
okay.
It was without explanation. And again, to me, an example of this kind of comment. Is it have some constructive purpose to make that comment? Or is that, again, what the council is getting famous for?
I understand.
My comment was that there's been links made between the bullying and harassment claims and the CA resignation. And half of that equation has been released to the public, the other half is not. And there's been comments made in the recent email.
Do note that with regards to the resignation, it relates to a single individual. That into itself has been expressed as a labor challenge. So I think council should reserve comment on it.
Okay, just to follow up, please, when you make comments like that, give us the background on it, because all it comes across is another side comment.
Yeah, sorry, I
thank you.
I was crazy going to a point there.
Okay. Councillor Haines.
I think just to clarify his position, it's in the paper. I think what you were referencing is in the paper, the comment.
Oh,
so you can read it in the newspaper what the relation to the resignation is and the topic tonight.
We can't get it here.
You can't. Well, you can read it. It's in the paper.
Sir, with respect to, for example, when it comes to labor aspects, there may be things, for example, out in the community that we shouldn't be discussing here because of our responsibilities and our legal.
Totally fine. I have no problem on that. But if there's not some basic background to the comment, it just comes as
understood
as an offhand snide comment.
Understood.
Sorry, that was one of my intent.
I think that kind of brings forward aspects of inexperience in dealing with council matters too. I didn't take that as being a staff, but just the fact that it requires some experience to know what to say and what not to say in public.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Marjorie?
I just wanted to comment on Mr. Parker's comment, because I think we maybe disagree on what is a personnel matter. To me, personnel is people who are employed by the district whose names should not be bandied around in public if there's an issue. That's when you go in camera. But the memo, which was signed by 5 senior staff people, was actually a complaint about the actions of our elected officials, who are public officials. And here you are in public and dealing with it, and I commend you for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I think what part of Mr. Parkhurst, who I don't see anymore.
Sorry.
Sorry, there he is. Part of the concern is just with respect to it, because it was something issued by staff, and then it gets sent out into the community. And when it comes to the authorization, for example, Councillor Milbank questioned me on the authorization to read that paragraph from QP 401. We have not seen or heard any sort of indication from anybody other than Councillor Milbank that letter could be distributed amongst all of the communities. So in that regard there's some parallels there. Councillor Milbank?
Just to respond to that, my comments and one of my concerns is that my comments are frequently recharacterized and mischaracterized by the mayor. My comment is that we were told to keep it confidential and had absolutely no ability in order to fact check it or determine the veracity of the document. And yet we're voting on it tonight until we hear from the mayor at this meeting. Now all of a sudden it's not confidential. How am I supposed to fulfill my duties as a public elected official if I'm receiving information in confidential emails, told to keep it confidential, which I did, and then I can't get any information on it. I'm not given the opportunity to consider it in advance. I'm told not to discuss it with staff, which I didn't. And then all of a sudden it's not confidential. The issue wasn't about the release of the information. The issue was the avenue by which we received it and the terms that we got the information under.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second. One question.
Okay. All in favor of adjournment? Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned. You can listen to if you want. An individual sent